It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back as we turn to health matters. We do it 16 times a minute, 23,040 times a day, and almost 8.5 million times a year. Yet we only take notice of it when something is wrong and we stop. I'm talking about breathing. And today, for our health segment, we're stepping back and taking a deep breath. Woosa. Yeah, to woosa with us, Dr. Darren Green, looking so dapper, dude.
Thank you,
Looking
champion.
very
Showing
nice
us up.
today.
Come on, man.
Take my breath away. Well, Dr. Darren Green, I know that you know breathing is good because it gets oxygen into the body.
Yeah.
But what other benefits or what else is breathing good for?
Yeah, it's not just about that. It's about regulating tone. It's about ensuring mobility of the thorax and the actual spine as well, if you think about it. But obviously, oxygen is essential to life. So all the vital organs, your brain, your kidneys, your muscles, you can't move and function without oxygen. So it enhances the quality of your life, and the ease with which you carry out activities is dependent on that. But your relaxed state in terms of being ready to protect yourself and survive and withstand stretch.
Woosa. I do it at least 5 times a show just to release that energy. But how long can you go without oxygen?
That's determinant on many things. I mean, that's determined by your genetics. It's determined by your level of activity, your red blood cells, the makeup of your blood, etc. as well. So generally, you'll find people can go underwater for 2 minutes that are regular swimmers quite easily. Some can even stretch that to 4 minutes.
So you can train it.
Yeah,
It's
you
a
can
muscle
train
that
it.
can
It's
be
something
trained.
that can be
Muscle that can be
improved
trained.
with your ability, and obviously it's also got to do with your cardiovascular system. So that implies the heart and the blood vessels. They've all got muscle, obviously, in them as well, the pump function. And sometimes your heart can even pump fewer times to get the same amount of oxygen throughout the body because it's so strong and that muscle is so well conditioned.
Thinking of like the Ryan Strumroots, these guys who tackle the Arctic and those sorts of things. Yeah.
Crazy guys, hey, crazy.
Unbelievable. Well, I want to know, in terms of exercising, because I know that, for example, they say if you walk on an incline, slower pace, your breathing is better, and that's better for weight loss compared to high interval training.
Yeah,
so
good
how does
question.
that
With the
Yes.
boxing, they always do that.
Yeah.
Slap the treadmill like this and make you
That's
walk.
it.
It's a
Yeah.
slow walk?
Correct. So slow walk on an incline, obviously, it's got to do about your rate of burning, your rate of actually burning and metabolizing your energy. And obviously, you've heard of the term VO2 max, the maximum oxygen consumption that you can actually afford. In that means in creating energy using the aerobic system of metabolism. In other words, the oxygen-dependent one. So you can use that, and that's how hard and intense you can train with oxygen for a period before that mechanism and cycle burns out, and then you start developing lactic acid. Anyone that runs the 400 meters knows when you hit the last 100 meters and you hit the wall, that's when your aerobic cycle really basically is exhausted, and then you start moving into the anaerobic cycle for the last bit.
So that's basically at the heart of all cardio exercise, is finding that sweet spot for yourself. We'd like to hear from you. 021-430-9881. That's the number to dial if you've got any questions relating, or you just want to phone in and breathe heavily on the line.
Don't do that.
You can do that as well. We're going to continue our discussion in a moment.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
So we continue our health chat with Dr. Darren Green. Take a deep breath. We are talking about breathing this morning. Really interesting, actually. Not as simple as you might think it is, because there are so many functions attached to breathing. We know that it's a stress release for a lot of us as well.
Indeed.
But it's how our bodies run. We all live on oxygen. And really interesting facts surfacing already, yeah.
That's right. Well, Doctor, we wanted to know from you, can you bring your heart rate down through your breathing?
You can, certainly. If you think about the heart rate control, it's controlled by what's called the autonomic nervous system, almost automatic, because you don't think about it, it just happens. And there are 2 different nodes of the heart, one in the top part of the heart, one in the bottom part, and the one's responsible for increasing the heart rate, and the other one's responsible for decreasing it. And depending on what emotional load you're going through, what cognitions you're thinking, what activity you're actually involved in.
Adrenaline, yeah.
Adrenaline, cortisol, stressful circumstances, even heartache and pain can affect, obviously, the firing of those electrical nodes. And so the things that work on the heart rate control are quite incredible, and cognition is one of them. If you dream that you're running after a dog through a forest, your heart rate increases, even though you're physically not increasing your work rate running. So you can, obviously, with cognitions, affect basically the heart rate, and then obviously with breathing as well, the mechanics involved in pressure when you breathe in, stretching the thoracic cavity, which also then affect pressure on the
message,
nerves and the
yeah.
plexuses, which are the nerves, trees inside the thorax, and that obviously then causes a reflex response to the heart rate.
I love it. We've got Jackie on the line all the way from Jersey. Jackie, I can hear you breathing on the phone there. A very good morning, Jackie. Lovely to connect with you. What's your comment or your question?
My question is, I'm a type 1 diabetic, and especially in the morning when I wake up, it's not easy for me to breathe. What is the cause of it?
Great question.
You know, a lot of people struggle when they wake up in the morning. They feel a bit tight. It could be obviously due to the mobility of the chest wall, sleeping for long periods of time in a certain position. Obviously, the other things are obviously if there's associated joint and arthritic manifestations. Morning stiffness of any joint, whether it be the chest wall or the back or the knees, can be associated with certain types of inflammatory arthritis and so forth as well. So if there's a problem with breathing, it could be due to that. Some people from laying flat for long periods of time have a bit of fluid that moves into the lungs due to the heart working quite hard.
Could the diabetes be playing a role in
It
that?
could, of course, because diabetes obviously affects the cardiovascular system and the blood vessels over time. So she would be indicated to definitely have her lungs listened to by someone first, and then to assess what are her lung functions. They'll let her breathe into a specific closed system, look at the pressure she can generate, whether it's within normal or not, and whether she doesn't have an underlying condition that prevents that sensation of free breathing.
Jackie, go and see someone, I think ultimately is the question, yeah.
Thank you for your
Thank
call.
you.
And then, of course, our lines are open, 021 430 9881, if you've got a comment or a question for Dr. Darren Green. When we get back with you, Doctor, I want to know about the optimal way of breathing. I know it's more than just in and out. Okay, don't go anywhere.
It's my feel good breakfast show.
Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show. It's Expresso, and we're continuing our medical chat with Dr. Darren Green. It's something we do 16 times a minute and up to 8.5 million times a year. I'm talking about our breathing.
It is essential, yes, we know, to stay alive because everything in our body needs oxygen pretty much, but there are also secondary kind of elements involved here, and stress and anxiety really does jump to mind. I'm a breather. I think from martial arts training, you also learn to breathe, to control your body. How does breathing play a role when it comes to stress and anxiety?
Indeed, we don't think about breathing. Hey? It's a reflex thing. So you don't have to think, oh dear, I haven't taken a breath in the last 6 seconds. I need to take another one. It's controlled by the brainstem. It's a primary reflex of your primitive brain, just at the top of the spinal cord, right at the back of your head, which drives it. And it drives it based on the concentration of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the blood. There's certain receptors in the neck and in the blood vessels that can sense when that balance goes down, and then it increases the rate of breathing more or less. When it comes to stress, obviously, we are very concerned about what's called the sympathetic symptom, which is that's your flight or fight.
Okay.
And that obviously leads to hyperventilation because you're trying to get a lot of oxygen into your lungs, and you're also looking for an exit. So you need the oxygen to think in your vital organs. You also need to look at your prey and your enemy, to stare it in the eye and find its weaknesses, and then look for exit plans. But the big problem, obviously, is you start breathing shallower and faster. That's called hyperventilation. So people that are chronically stressed or even acutely stressed or having a panic attack hyperventilate.
And it's a real thing, man. It's heavy.
Yes,
Yeah.
and when they're in that position, they feel that they're in sympathetic mode, threat mode, they're going to die. There's no exit for them. So what they do is they blow off, like a panting dog, too much carbon dioxide. The next step is they start becoming dizzy because of that, and then the drive of breathing is lost, where they can actually feel like they're going to pass out and faint. They get numbness in their fingertips and tingling feeling. Those are all the symptoms of panic attack. So sympathetic and fight or flight, threatened mode leads to hyperventilation, and sometimes it's subconscious. You don't even know it's there.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know.
It's amazing how it's all connected. Yeah.
Well, Doctor, we have a caller on the line, Hajir from Cape Town. Good morning.
Hi, guys.
Hi, what's your
How you
comment
doing?
or question for Dr. Darren?
Hi, doctor. Can being overweight or underweight affect your breathing?
Superb question.
Great question, and
It's not on
both
our
can
list, yeah.
certainly
That's a really
do
good
that. Hey?
question, yeah.
So being overweight, just ask anyone that tries to bend down and tie their shoelaces while trying to breathe. And if they have, obviously, a lot of abdominal fat and are overweight, it's sometimes difficult. Certainly, trying to shift 50 kilograms overweight upstairs, You try that and see
So
how your
obviously
breathing is
You've got to
affected.
get oxygen to the
Correct.
additional
To carry
surface
that
area,
weight
yeah.
around, it's like putting a sack of sugar or cement on your back and carrying that up wherever you go for the day. So you'll need higher oxygen requirements because the muscles are working harder to carry that weight. It's like gymming and carrying weights or dumbbells around the whole day. So you know your body will then try and meet those needs.
Being underweight?
Underweight, quite interestingly enough, is the mechanics of being underweight and light. You often have issues, obviously, with regards the skeletal component of the musculature that hangs on the skeleton. So remember, breathing is not just about the lungs, where air moves in according to a gradient. It's also about what's called the accessory muscles. The neck is involved with breathing. The diaphragm is involved as well. And sometimes even some of the other chest wall muscles as well. So that all plays a role.
Sure.
Very, very interesting. Our lines are open, 0214309881. Give us a call. Got one more segment left to broach your comments, your questions.
It's my Feel Good Breakfast Show.
Okay, well, we're back with Dr. Darren Green. I know we have a lot of questions, but earlier, Doctor, I asked you what is the optimal way for breathing, and we still need to figure that one
The
out.
best way to breathe is to create a boop when you breathe.
Okay.
So
Push the
when you
diaphragm
breathe
down.
in the nose, preferably, the diaphragm must relax and your tummy must actually protrude. And they teach that to opera singers and singers, obviously. And then, obviously, as you breathe out, the expiratory, the breathing out phase must be longer. So in the nose, and 16 times a minute is what the average person might breathe, but you should actually try and bring it down to about 10 if you can,
Sure.
with effective breathing. And obviously that enables you then to just be in a ready state to observe and to act to threats.
Absolutely love that. We had a question coming in via social media, antioxidants.
Oh, yes.
How does that tie together with this particular system when we're talking about oxygen? When you're breathing in, you're taking in kind of harmful...
The only thing that's in common is the word ox. It has nothing to do with ox, but oxygen and oxygen species. So when you have anything metabolized in the body, you have what are called free radicals or oxygen species that are the byproducts of metabolism of food or enzyme reactions in the cells of the body. Whether that be a muscle cell, a gut cell, it doesn't matter. So the products, which are the oxygen species or the free radicals, are necessary to keep driving a trigger to recycle the rubbish and get rid of it through toxins and its secretions and so forth,
things that break
and the
us
blood
down,
to the
yeah.
kidneys, etc. It's important. But what antioxidants are foodstuffs that contain molecules, like, for example, pomegranates, that then help reduce the amount of free radicals
They
and
attach
oxygen
themselves
species.
to those or
Correct.
feed those free
That's it.
radicals.
And then that just reduces it. If you take too many antioxidants, you could take away the drive for normal cell metabolism. So a certain degree is good, but you can certainly overdose on antioxidants too.
Oh, you don't want that. Well, Doctor, we have another caller, Patty Lloyd. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. What's your comment and question for Dr. Darren Green?
I have a condition where I inhale more than I can exhale. So if I walk a lot briskly or if I sing a lot, then it feels like my lungs are just getting fuller and fuller, and I don't know what one can do about that.
Oh,
Very
yeah. It sounds
interesting.
terrifying, Patty. It actually makes me kind of panic a little bit thinking about that. What is it called?
It makes it sound like hyperinflation of the lung. So there are certain
Hyperinflation.
conditions where you have restrictive airway disease, where you can breathe in, but you struggle to breathe out. Asthma, for example, is a condition where some people really struggle with breathing out. You have bronchospasm, the airways narrowed, so you can get a lot of air in, but as you're breathing out, there's resistance to that. There are conditions, other
so
medical
there's a buildup
conditions
of-
as well.
of that CO2
She
then,
would
you know,
certainly, definitely also benefit from doing an accurate lung function test, which looks at the flow of air into and out of the lung. How long is the in phase, how long is the out phase, and then obviously look at whether she's got a pattern in that flow.
How would they address that then? How would you...
It's quite simple. You get certain patterns in the waveforms that tell you whether it's obstructive lung disease or restrictive lung disease. Then you'd obviously correlate that physically with your CT scan or your X-ray of the lung, looking at the actual lung tissue itself or conditions of the chest wall, and then you treat according to the specific cause in this case.
Oh, Patty, thank you so much, and good luck. I think see a lung specialist is the overriding thought. In fact, to all of our callers this morning who had issues concerning their lungs and their breathing, go and see someone. Get yourself checked out. Dr. Darren Green, you are on fire today, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
I've learned so much. Hopefully that's opened a window onto what's going on in your own body. And whatever you do today, don't forget to take a deep breath. It'll help you de-stress.